Annyeonghaseyo, welcome to the Land of Korean Cinema. Today let's talk about a show that took the #1 spot from Squid Game on Netflix called Hellbound, or Cheok. It simply means hell. The show stars Yoo Ah-in, Kim Hyun-joo, Yang Ik-jun, Lee, Park Jung-min, and many others. Strange events start to occur in the world. A mysterious being called an angel appears in front of certain people, telling the exact date said person is about to go to hell. When their time comes, 3 giant beings come out of nowhere and incinerate the body, leaving only a skeleton behind. There's a religious leader who had been preaching about this for the last 10 years. So when these events start to happen, his church becomes insanely powerful. So does a violent gang that apparently has ties to the church. On paper, I love everything about this series. The concept is really intriguing, the characters in the show are all very interesting. I love the psychological aspects of it, I love how it reflects real life. But there are also things about it that infuriate me. Let's not start with those. My absolute favorite aspect of Hellbound is that the show focuses on people instead of trying to capitalize on the presence of these otherworldly creatures. They're barely in the show, they just come and go. Hellbound is much more about how people react to things and events they don't understand. Hellbound basically shows how religions in the world were created and how they became a major force in society. And also how they're trying everything in their power to not let any information out that might contradict the belief system they've put in place. It's disgusting. To be more precise, this church says that only sinners get condemned to hell. They don't know for sure, but they're able to implement fear into the people through this. And people become controllable. So we have events that are unexplainable. People make up an explanation for it, through which they're able to gain power over everyday people. And if someone doesn't fit the narrative, they do everything in their power to shut the person up, because if certain information leaks, the society they've built is going to collapse. As if that was a bad thing. Doesn't that sound eerily familiar? Wake up, people! As I was watching Hellbound, I couldn't help but think that this whole show is a metaphor for what's happening in the world right now. Watch this show very carefully, because this is the exact way how people in power were able to create this mess that is happening. It's all a facade, guys. Turn off your TV, it's bad for you. I was both fascinated and frightened watching this show. I was fascinated by how accurately the show portrayed human nature, especially herd mentality. And I was frightened because people are actually like that. When did free thinking and having an opinion go out of fashion? But it's not just the human element that's good, of course. Although I'm not always a fan of the CGI in the show, certain sequences with these creatures look absolutely mind-blowing. And the show's not afraid to take risks as well. These creatures are merciless, they rip people apart and blood is splattering everywhere, and it's quite shocking actually. There was a scene in episode 3 that genuinely made me mad. It involves an older lady who has cancer. I absolutely did not expect that scene to happen. I was furious. But I also love that the show doesn't compromise at all. I also like the atmosphere of this series. It's very bleak and desolate. And like I said, the characters are all very interesting. There's not a dull character in the show. And the performances are amazing too. But here lies the first problem also. We don't have a main character. There's no main character. Every character is so interesting they would deserve a season of their own. But there are lots of them, and it's impossible to get to know them well enough. Not to mention that certain characters just disappear after episode 3, because there's a time jump in episode 4, which I hate, and which really didn't have to be there, or it should have been introduced earlier. I'm really not a fan of the pacing here. The first 3 episodes feel like just a prologue to the whole thing, and the remaining 3 episodes feel like just the first act of a movie. Yes, Hellbound is only 6 episodes, and things are moving slowly. As I was getting closer to episode 6, it became painfully obvious that the story is not going to end there. And I've got problems with that. Of course, season 1 ends just when things get really interesting. I had the same problem with season 1 of Kingdom as well. I hate it when shows end their seasons on a cliffhanger, especially since I'm used to Korean shows having 16 episodes and they're usually well-crafted stories with a beginning, a middle, and an end. I don't mind leaving a few small doors open, but give me some sense of closure. The problem is that Netflix isn't really a safe haven for shows, you know? They cancelled Daredevil, the best superhero show ever. I know they cancelled all the other Marvel shows as well, but Daredevil? And now they cancelled Cowboy Bebop as well. What I'm saying is that when your show comes out on Netflix, you better finish your main story at least, because season 2 might not happen. And of course that means that a lot of questions remain unanswered. If you're curious about these creatures and about this whole supernatural thing in general, well, you stay curious because you'll get 0 answers. So many things are left for season 2 to discover, meanwhile the show is wasting a lot of time with its pacing. I don't like that. And then in episode 2, all of a sudden some VIPs arrive wearing masks, giving me some instant Squid Game vibes. And speaking of Squid Game, that also has an open ending, but at least the main story is finished, you know? And if that's the end of Squid Game, I'm fine with that. But I'm not fine with this. So Hellbound in a way is truly fascinating. It explores human nature and faith incredibly well. It has some genuinely disturbing sequences and a really intriguing plot. Unfortunately, the pacing is a detriment to the storytelling, and the story also gets scattered because of the overabundance of characters. If I was able to binge the whole show, this review most likely would be a very different story. But as of now, Hellbound is very intriguing, but scattered and incomplete. I'm gonna give Hellbound 70%. The acting is exceptional, the concept is great, the psychological aspect works really well, but fucking give me a full story for God's sake. 여러분, 오늘은 여기까지만 해요. 영상 봐주셔서 감사합니다. 영상 좋아하면 구독과 좋아요 잘 부탁드립니다. See you very soon. 다음 시간에 만나요, 여러분. 안녕히 계세요.